QA team for Cyberpunk and other projects misled the companies that hired them and underperformed. So, this is somewhat interesting because some people back when Cyberpunk launched were saying this is on QA, and then a lot of people were like, no, it's the QA can mark all of these things as issues. It doesn't mean that they're going to be fixed. That's true. Apparently, what this story from PC Gamer describes is a lot of misrepresentation on the part of these companies, which led to some serious issues. So Quantic Lab first made headlines over its role in testing Cyberpunk 2077. And the title of the article is Major Game Studios Believed This Company Was Providing Experienced, Well-Staffed QA Teams. Employees of that company say that was a lie. 2 current and 8 former workers at prolific Romanian quality assurance outsourcer Quantic Lab spoke to PC Gamer about their jobs on the condition of anonymity, alleging that management not only pressures its testers above and beyond the norm for this vital but too often under-resourced subset of game development, but also misleads its clients about the size and competency of its QA teams and directs employees to keep up the charade. You're likely unfamiliar with Quantic Lab, which is based in Cluj-Napoca, Romania, but you will know the games this Embracer Group subsidiary worked on. Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine, Divinity Original Sin 2, Necromunda, Hired Gun, City Skylines, and more were all tested by the team. Testers had access to development builds of these games, scrutinizing them for glitches and potential blocks to progress in a similar way to how speedrunners attempt to break the game following a release. In June, a series of videos from gaming channel Upper Echelon Gamers drew attention to Quantic's alleged mismanagement and duplicitous business practices. UEG focused on the testimony of former members of Quantic's Cyberpunk 2077 QA team, the distressed management caused those workers, and the negative impact this had on Cyberpunk's development. The employees I spoke to describe an environment where Quantic was constantly operating beyond its means, accepting more projects than it had the capacity for and stretching its staff too thinly between them. They indicated that these issues hit a crescendo when the company took contracts to test Cyberpunk 2077 and NBA 2K21. Cyberpunk has been a bit of a lightning rod for Quantic, but the company does not seem to be officially credited in 2K21, a practice that one of the currently active employees touched on. Quote, unfortunately, many Quantic Lab testers were not credited in all games that they tested. In some cases, publishers' criteria for crediting a person was if they worked more than 5 months on that game. If someone worked only 4 months and 2 weeks on that game, they wouldn't be credited. And this is an issue because when you apply for a new job and say, oh, I worked on NBA 2K21, and then your employer looks at the credits for that game and you're not listed, it looks like you're lying. When you did work on it, you just didn't work on it long enough to be in the official credits. So that ends up being an issue. Let's see. Quote, from a team of 30 people initially assigned to Cyberpunk 2077, I think only 10 of them had experience on QA, a source who worked on the Cyberpunk QA team said. Of those 10, they said that, quote, none of the experienced testers had more than a year of experience. I wouldn't blame Cyberpunk on Quantic. CDPR still released the damn thing, one of the former Quantic employees who worked on the game told us. But the fact that the game was in the state that it was, Quantic contributed. The same employee posited that a better managed team in the same position could have bought CD Projekt valuable time on the project. It was common to see entire projects handled by one person, which actually needed a team of 1 to 3 testers. And then there's issues of low pay, of being overworked and crunch. I never tried working in game development again, even though it was my passion at first. This unfortunately happens a lot. A lot of people get into game dev, run into situations like this, and then give it up and never go back. Who knows how much talent and how many great games have been lost to history simply because they burnt out the employees. The employees we spoke to pessimistic about Quantic's prospects of changing for the better as a result of current negative attention. One suggested it would require a top-down overhaul of the management origination from its corporate owners to the Embracer Group, which acquired the company in November of 2020. Yeah, Embracer Group running into issues. Shocker. So all of this to say, the team that was hired to help QA test Cyberpunk 2077, it sounds like management lied about their capacities for labor and acted as though they were able to do a lot more than they actually were. And that certainly does not justify or explain why Cyberpunk launched the way it did. Like that employee said, the management at CDPR still chose to release the game in a broken state. It's still on them. But this does kind of explain why the QA seems to just have been non-existent for that game, because like the team that was handling it had like zero experience and were underpaid, overworked, and it was just a disaster. So I would guess this probably doesn't happen again. I would guess CDPR probably goes and does it all internally this next time around, if I had to put money on it. If I were a betting man, that's what I would say.